Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar series on landing pages. We just wait for some more people to enter the room, and we can get started. Going to give it a few more minutes. Hope everybody's having a great day. Just going to give it 1 or 2 more minutes to wait for some more people to enter, and then we'll begin our discussion on landing pages and their the secret ingredient for your PPC success. Okay, we'll begin. Hi, my name is Shane. I'm the PPC account director here at Legacy Communications, running all types of, I suppose, PPC campaigns within the agency, and in charge of anything that is Google Ads and paid social related. Today, I'm going to give a kind of, I suppose, a kind of quick discussion really on landing pages, specifically kind of for paid search campaigns, but kind of it's what I'm going to talk about as well is can be used within other advertising as well, and how there really are I suppose it's the secret ingredient really for your PPC success. It's so important in terms of kind of communicating kind of the products that you're selling, services that you're selling, obviously getting people to communicate, to convert, turn into a lead or a sale, but also to kind of portray or kind of showcase the brand and your business and what you do. In terms of what I'm going to talk about today, so I'll discuss, obviously the importance of landing pages for your campaigns and beyond. I'm going to give some examples of good landing pages, and then some examples of what I think are poor landing pages, and then talk about the importance of testing as well. So different kind of testing strategies and trying to get like a testing calendar together and everything like that, and then kind of I suppose some kind of like testing ideas as well. Talk about everything from A/B testing to multivariate testing, looking at like kind of heat maps and all of that good stuff as well. So generally, whenever somebody comes to the website, we're trying to get them to do, one thing. It's, always like kind of fill out a form. So it's you're trying to get somebody to action something on the site. Generally, fill out a form. Can also be like kind of to buy something from your e-commerce website. And I always think of kind of PPC really as performance marketing, rather, I should say, as it's a horse race. So I know we've got Cheltenham on at the moment, so very kind of topical and everything, but it really is a horse race. That traffic needs to jump over a number of different hurdles to get where it's going to ultimately convert and end up as a sale or a lead. So we need to get people to jump over the ad, increase your click-through rate, and then jump over the kind of the landing page and increase your conversion rate. It's really, really important to increase your conversion rates. And I think whenever you're looking at your landing page design, and when you're looking at kind of tests and everything like that, that's the one thing you want to do is to really kind of increase conversion rate. It's from, in my view, it's probably one of the most important metrics in determining kind of the success of different landing pages. And obviously when you do the maths and you go back, if you increase your conversion rate, you lower your cost per conversion. You can drive leads and sales at a cheaper price. You get more ROI. So it definitely has really good knock-on effects for your campaigns. So that's the ultimate kind of goal that I think that everybody should be working with whenever they're thinking about the landing page, thinking about the user experience, and kind of where we want to be with our landing page design and everything. It's just all about driving that performance. So some simple best practices I think that are really, really important whenever you're designing your landing pages is kind of to keep the landing page relevant for the key, in terms of paid search anyway, to keep the landing page relevant to the keywords that you're driving traffic to the page from. That's obviously going to have a kind of another added bonus within your PPC campaigns anyway, in terms of keyword quality score. So Google measures the keyword quality score, and they measure landing page experience as part of that. And the better the experience, the more kind of content, if the content is tailored for a good experience on the website, Google will score you better, and you'll drive traffic at a cheaper price, which is great. And that obviously has other knock-on effects as well. I think it's really important as well to write content for the target audience that you're advertising to. It seems quite simple, but it's like, don't write content for the general public. So keep it really like kind of smart and succinct, to the point about the products that you sell and everything, and think about the problems as well that your target audience has in terms of kind of the problem that they're trying to solve, rather, and think about kind of how you communicate to that target persona. Have a really strong headline as well. It's the first thing that somebody's going to read whenever they come to the website. So that's how you're going to kind of hook the person, really kind of grab attention, for instance. As well, imagery is super important. So think about images that you're going to use. There's a lot of testing as well that you can do around images, but visual is best. I think visual things sell quite well. So like you should have different images on your landing page that are relevant. There should always be kind of high res. You should really kind of put a lot of thought into the different images and kind of general layout. And also think about the length of the page as well. I'll talk more about page length later on in the webinar, but it's important in terms of quantity versus quality, for instance. So page length is something to definitely think about too. Ultimately, with our kind of the landing pages, we're trying to influence purchase decisions. So something that I'm very interested in is what Google talks about, is they call it the messy middle. So it's what really kind of moves the needle in terms of getting somebody to purchase or to convert. So, kind of what are the things that people will what are the things that people will use will kind of gravitate towards in order to purchase. And I think like category heuristics are quite important as well, like short descriptions within your landing pages of the key products, can simplify purchase decisions. Also big fan of the power of now. It's like, kind of get a quote, get it, talk to us today, buy now. You're like, kind of a sense of urgency is interesting, and it's definitely worth testing. You should be using social proofing as well with your landing pages. So, kind of obviously, testimonials are important there. Reviews in a general sense are important. Kind of, you could have videos, for instance, of current customers or clients talking about your product and how great it is and everything like that as well. Another thing that can move the need, that can get people to buy. And I think as well, kind of a scarcity bias. So if you are able to say that your product is exclusive, that is something that will always kind of drive up demand. I know myself, from going out in kind of a clubbing world, it's one thing that my clubs love to do is to make the place really exclusive, to get people to come. But another thing as well is authority bias. So, kind of, some people can be swayed by experts and trusted sources. We live in a world of influencers. So it's something that definitely works in terms of influencer marketing, and it's something that you can use within your landing pages to again to get people to buy. And another interesting thing to think about in terms of influencing purchase decisions is the power of free. Buy one get one free, obviously, are kind of a classic in that sense, but free gifts, and I think kind of moving on from that would be just to kind of to give extra value. If you can persuade somebody with on the landing page that your product or service is of good value, and is that they're getting more than just the product or service, that can be very, very powerful in increasing your click-through or your conversion rates. So these are all ideas that can be used in terms of getting people to convert on the page, and should be definitely tested in my view. And it's quite interesting to dive into this a little bit more, around kind of what actually makes people purchasing decisions. And there's a lot of interesting material on this, that I think Google have done. It's called the messy middle, that I find very interesting. I've talked just there about like how important length is to a landing page. So in general, there in my view, there are two types of landing pages: the long, and in the next slide I'll show the short landing page. So these are two examples. One's from Oracle, and the other one is from a company called Luxury Irish Tours, and they're both quite long pages. Generally, a long page will produce less leads or less conversions, but the quality of those conversions tends to be a little bit better. So I think both the long and the short, and I'll go into more detail in the short one in the next slide, but they have, they should be used quite strategically. So in terms, and I'll talk about this as well, the bigger the ask, the longer the page should be. as well. So the first one is Oracle, so selling cloud computing solutions is a pretty big ask for any company. And the other um, company, Luxury Irish Tours, sells luxury golf tours and experiences around Ireland, bespoke kind of golf tours. So and luxury private tours as well. So these are all big ticket items. So generally kind of you need a longer page in that sense to house, maybe a longer form as well. I'll talk about in another couple of slides, but also kind of a lot more detail around product features, a lot more detail around even like social proofing, and they tend to be longer pages tend to be, for instance, really good for like product pages as well, again, because you need more detail. You need to be able to add more detail again on product kind of features, and different kind of videos, for instance, or more images and all of that kind of stuff as well. So I definitely think that it's worth another interesting test. Is worth testing the length of your pages. In terms of the short, generally see this, and a good example that I've always liked is around the gaming industry, is that they always have these, from live score betas, they always have these really short pages that are just to get somebody to do one thing, and that's set up an account. Really good with like kind of, obviously I've talked about, quality versus quantity. So high volume lead generation, maybe the quality is a little bit less, but you're driving bulk kind of leads. So, the ROI can be quite good in that sense. Ideal for low commitment action. So this is, I know setting up a gambling account might be a bigger commitment for some people versus others, but it is kind of, to use a short page to get somebody to do something fast, to set up an account really quickly, or to convert really quickly, and just want them to do something without even thinking about it. And perfect as well for offering for an offer based kind of product or industry. So this is, bet 10 euros, get 60 euros in free bets. Like, it's all about the offer. So going back again to what we were talking about earlier in the messy middle, is the shorter pages tend to be quite good for the pair of now, tend to be quite good for the pair of free, and kind of, those two kind of purchasing decisions in terms of getting people to kind of, convert, increase conversion rates in that sense. So and the longer pages would be obviously quite good for like social proofing, quite good for testimonials, and that sort of stuff as well. It's important to think about the message. It makes sense. That it is really important to think about what you're actually going to say on the page. But it is it's the first thing that somebody's going to see whenever they open the page. So it really is important to think about what you're going to say in that sense. Sorry, excuse me. In terms of your landing page design and thinking about that message, there's a lot of research out there on what a landing page should look like. So this is the anatomy of a landing page. And I think it's a really good kind of example of how to kind of construct your landing page, for instance. So again, thinking about that headline, really good headline at the top of the page, images, kind of on the left-hand side, your form on the right-hand side, and then other kind of benefits lower down. Maybe you might have some kind of testimonials here in the middle, and then you can have benefits and product features and a closing statement. So, in general, this is how we would kind of design our landing pages, particularly the long ones, really, to make sure that the form is really prominent, phone numbers in a good position, and we are using clear kind of calls to action and photos, benefits and features and all that. And again, talking about social proofing and testimonials and everything like that. So it's quite a useful kind of resource in that sense. But yeah, again, this is just an example of kind of anything that you need to cover. from a good landing page. Again, here you can see that just clear calls to action at the top with a good headline here. Thinking about like a form kind of above the fold. So if you really want to make sure that everything that's important to get somebody to convert is above the fold as well, so that they don't need to scroll down. Again, there's the power of free here, so kind of free unlimited packs, I think that says. But yeah, it's about getting people to convert in that sense. And then there's good examples here of, again, social proofing and benefits and testimonials that we like as well. Your form is super important. So again, it goes back to a long versus short. A longer form tends to get more people, it tends to be more difficult to get somebody to convert, versus a shorter form is more, kind of more quality. Kind of, this is the form that we actually use for our for the webinar. We don't need a lot of details for getting people to obviously sign up for our webinars and all of that. So it's perfect in that sense. But if you're selling more, like this is an example of Oracle's form, is that you might need a company name, you might need a phone number, you might need a postcode or a role, as part of the sales process. So your form might need to be that bit longer, but it is important to think about, like, the more people have to fill out general, kind of, the harder it is to get somebody to convert in that sense. So again, there's more testing to be done around the size of the form, which I think is pretty interesting in that sense. So what to do and what not to do. In this section, I'm gonna just run through some examples that I like of good kind of simple, kind of design with good images of landing pages that I think are done really well. And then I'm going to have there's also a few examples at the end of kind of landing page design that I don't like. And that, just to kind of break things up and kind of give you an example of what's good and what's not. So the first example is from a company called Superproof, and they're offering kind of, it's a jobs website. So this is for people looking for guitar lessons in London, for instance, but it's just a really, really simple design. It's a short page as well, so it's very specific about what it does. It caters to the visitor's need for convenience as well. It's very specific about what it is that it's trying to convert. So it's very specific and very tailored to what the visitor actually needs, or the problem that the visitor has, I was talking about earlier. So somebody needs guitar lessons in London. This is just all about guitar lessons in London. It's not about guitar lessons in general. It's about guitar lessons specifically in London. And it's, kind of the amount of instructors that they have, how much the lessons cost is there. There's a lot of really good benefits. There's also good, kind of thinking about what's important to, or again, what influences that purchasing decision. So for somebody looking for a guitar lesson, reviews are really important. So there's reviews here at the bottom. Again, it's just Trustpilot. It's really simple, really easy to integrate. There's good images here. It's quite a clever 3-box design of a guitar. I just think it's really, really good, and it's really simple, and it's just great. And it just kind of, it's all about clicking on that search button to look for guitar lessons and getting people to convert in that sense. Another good example that I like is from this website, Nancy Ladsey Maiden Art. You can see here that they're using a registration closes in X amount of days. So again, going back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of the messy middle, talking about urgency, that I think is great. I also like the colors as well. I think that there's a lot of really nice contrast between, the pink and the purple. So yeah, it's just, again, a really good design. Again, there's a lot of copy here about kind of, a competition as well, getting people to that they can win some fine art paint with free webinar. So again, it's about getting people to sign up for the webinar as well. And there's also ideas for us there as well about using the countdown timer too. So it's just really, really easy. Another good design that I like as well is this from Ghostwriters. So it's again, it's a longer form, but it's really quite simple in the sense that, the forms, the page, or sorry, it's a longer page. The page seems to be broken up into different sections. So, top versus bottom. Very much kind of, what you need people to convert is at the top. There's good use of different kind of calls to action at the top as well. So there's a live chat, obviously the form submit, and there's a phone number at the top as well. That I presume is you can click on that and call direct. And there's also a good offer as well here. And again, it's just clever use of splitting the page into different sections that I quite like, where you're talking about there's a clear differentiation between the kind of the book illustration agency, kind of the features here at the bottom, and just good use of imagery. So it just works, in my view, works quite well in that sense. What do poor landing pages look like? So these are two examples of kind of, I suppose, poor landing pages that I've just picked out. They're in general kind of, you can spot a poor landing page in my view because it just says too much. There's just too much content copy. There's not enough kind of, I suppose, with this first example, the big thing that stands out is that there's not enough calls to action. There's no form, there's no phone number, there's no kind of how do you contact the business, basically. For a kind of a marketing agency, it's quite difficult to understand that in that sense. But it's really kind of how do you contact the business, like I said. In terms of this one, there's just a lot going on in terms of different images, and there's not enough. Sorry, I'll go back. There's not enough, I think, kind of product features. Kind of there is some social proofing at the bottom, but it just needs to be a bit more. And this kind of the buy now button seems to be isn't as prominent as it should be, and there's a lot of clutter as well up here at the top. And the phone number could be a bit more, could be more prominent as well. So it just kind of looks a bit messy. I was like thinking the general design isn't as clean, particularly with this one here as well. There's different use of obviously different fonts. 3 different sets of fonts, and the "we" is bolded. The "w" is bolded in "we," which looks a bit amateurish in that sense. But it's kind of just too much going on, really, in my view. Tell me I'm wrong. Talk about testing. So testing super important in all aspects, I think, of performance marketing. Reason for that is we don't know what's going to work until we really try. We have, of course, best practice, and best practice has been tested and kind of across different verticals and everything, and it's seen within the industry as what you should do. But to really get kind of an idea of what's going to actually work kind of on your individual campaigns, you need to do a lot of testing. So generally we're testing of the campaigns that I'm running is kind of a lot of ad testing, obviously, but then kind of testing of different landing pages as well, and testing of different strategies. So in terms of kind of testing your landing pages, it's important to get a testing strategy together. So create a testing repository and calendar, kind of just come up with a lot of different testing ideas. So there's obviously a lot of ideas from the messy middle, you know, the power of now, the power of free, different experimenting with kind of testimonials, experimenting with different images, the size of the form, the size, length and of the page, all of that kind of stuff. It's also a great idea. We live in a world of kind of, I suppose, AI is ask ChatGPT to come up with ideas, you know, as well, that can be added to just a general list of testing ideas that can form a repository. And then you can work that into a testing calendar where you say, okay, this month we're going to run a test for X, next month we're going to try and test Y, and so on and so forth. I think as well, a testing calendar should be quite fluid. So it's important to, you know, to say to yourself that a test might not work, you know, you mightn't get the desired results. And it's important to go back and say, why didn't we get those desired results? And if needed, test again or amend the test. It's also important to test for a suitable period of time as well. So that you can, you know, so that you can have statistical significance in terms of increasing the conversion rate, and that you have a large enough data set to make an informed decision on which test is the winner. You know, you should test one item at a time as well. This is very true, obviously true if you're running A/B tests, because that's what it is. But you know, it's try and test one thing at a time. From a simplest point of view, I'll talk about multivariate testing in the next few slides, which tests multiple different things at a time. But that's a bit more, you know, that's very kind of that's very, excuse me, that's very. That's quite advanced, but from a simplest point of view, you should be testing one thing at a time, because you want to know which aspect is actually going to work. And then again, it's important to document your results, so that you can, you know, so that you have a library of different tests, and you can say, okay, well, this worked, this didn't work, and you can share them around the company as well. So then you can show off what works, and then these tests can be, you know, kind of can be run on different advertising as well, like, you know, paid social or display, or kind of other forms of digital media, as well, or even use as part of your SEO strategy. So again, kind of, you know, ideas of what you can test. So this, you know, we've talked about a lot of these earlier, but testing different headlines, testing different calls to action, visual elements, you know, the form size, social proofing, trust signals, you know, navigation testing. So thinking about the kind of, you know, the flow or the user experience of the website, and then testing, you know, kind of pricing as well. You know, kind of having a price, or having, you know, kind of free or something like that on the website too. And these can form your testing strategy and calendar, so that again you can gauge what moves the needle in that sense. Another thing to think about is kind of heat mapping as well. So there's a number of different solutions that we use that can be used to inform heat mapping on the website. We use Microsoft's, sorry, it has left my mind there. We use a Microsoft solution, but there's Hotjar as well is another one that can be used too. But, you know, it's just kind of in a general sense that you can see where people are clicking on the website, and then you can say, okay, well, they're clicking this button up here. Why don't we test? If I go back, why don't we test, you know, the let's talk button? Why don't we make it bigger? Why don't we change it to, you know, book a chat? Why don't we, you know, change the color of it? You know, you can see where the engagement, you can see where that engagement is. kind of on the website from the beginning, and that can form your testing ideas and general kind of testing strategy around your landing pages as well. And I've also talked about multivariant testing as well. So multivariant testing is where you run a kind of is where you can test different elements of the page at different times. Unbounce has quite an interesting solution that it will, you can create different pages and it will test them all at the same time to come up with one that with whatever kind of gets the highest conversion rate. But I think it's important. It's the great thing about this is when you have your kind of your testing strategy in place, is that you can say, okay, right, well, we saw that changing the form worked in one test, and then we saw that this particular image worked in another test. But if we put them both together, how does that work? So very often you can see that they both might work independently of each other, but then together you might see a negative result. So this can be quite good in that sense whenever you have your testing strategy running to see combined what can work as well. And I think obviously then the most important things about your landing pages and your kind of digital marketing in a general sense is to really think about your business. So how good is the product? How good is the customer service? And invest in the brand as well. And those three things, combined will make it really, really easy kind of for your pages to convert in that sense. So, the bigger your brand, the better your landing pages will perform as well. So that's all I've got, guys. Thank you so much. I'm open to a few questions now. I see there's one already from Habiba. Sorry, I have a question. Well, I suppose one thing I would say in terms of landing pages, and if you can see that the heat maps tend to show that people don't scroll to the bottom of your pages in particular, yes, that will inform the length of your page. So you should kind of experiment with maybe a shorter page in that sense. I'm not saying like so short that it's kind of the gambling kind of page, but yeah, you can shorten the page for sure. If you see that people aren't generally going down that far, and I think it would, the kind of the heat maps would also show that you are that the most important information at your course to action should be, kind of at the top of the page, obviously, where people are more likely to kind of engage in that sense. Is there any other questions? Okay, no more questions. So once again, thank you so much for coming to the webinar. If you have any questions about the chat, or you've any questions about kind of landing page design in general, my email is below, just shane@legacycommunications.com. More than happy to talk. Also more than happy to talk about any kind of upcoming projects that anyone has, or any opportunities in that sense. Yeah, it's just great to meet everybody, and thank you so much for coming. And I look forward to seeing everybody again at one of our other webinars. So thank you so much, and goodbye.